Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal EMAC coming to you on a solo mission. Yes, we've got a little bit of a travel weekend for darn near everybody who does podcasts, so I'm jumping in. I am going to be traveling myself here soon, but in the meantime, you're going to get me, and this is going to be a fun one. I've got a new spreadsheet that I will be working with tonight, so apologies in advance, but I think I have it all sorted out here. I've cultivated from Fangraphs the key columns that I want. I've typed in all of the pitchers' names, and it should be good to go. I'm using a new color scheme, which is always intriguing. And in any event, we're looking at a Monday here. We, of course, are sponsored by Yahoo Fantasy. That is the home of the management fee-free tournaments. And of course, they do have one posted already for Monday. So do not dilly-dally. That will fill up around lunchtime. 1,500 entries. There are 275 in there right now. 4,500 bucks in, 4,500 out. That's right, no management fee. But again, these do fill up. $3 to get in. And if you have not yet signed up to Yahoo, use the promo code OSMO along with coming in our link, which is in the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article, which is free every day here that there is baseball on the homepage of osmo.com. That is by yours truly. You can always find it on the Twitter feed. And if it's fallen off the homepage, just click up in the upper left, click on baseball articles, and boom, you will get it. All right, let's talk about this slate because it's going to be an interesting one. We have a 4 o'clock game and then a 12-game main slate, as the kids like to call it. Keeping in mind here that there's a doubleheader between the Mets and the Marlins. So in our 4 o'clock game, which is being handled differently by the different sites, DraftKings is actually said, hey, we're going to call this one the happy hour, and we're going to take everything at 4 o'clock, which is the one game, and then all the way up through the 7 o'clock games, skipping that second Mets and Marlins game. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing that's interesting today, we got a bunch of pitchers that are new to the game, so we're going to have to talk about them. We also have some pitchers that have not yet been announced. Additionally, there are some openers, and we do not yet have probable long relievers for everybody. But let's cover what we do have. So starting off here with that early game, you've got Jacob deGrom, who is going to be your pitcher of choice on that happy hour slate. This will be the 5th time he has faced the Marlins. He has gone 24 innings against them with a 3.0 ERA, a 1.17 whip, 23.8 DK points. If you're going to spend, and I've already built shell lineups, and you can, he is the guy you want. Really don't need a lot more introduction for him. Not entirely sure who it is going to be yet for the Marlins. Some sites are listing Sandy Alcantara, so let's give him a bit of a shout out here. Let me get back over to his information. Alcantara, there we go. We've got him coming in at 6,000 on that happy hour slate. This will be the 4th time he has faced the Mets. Has been solid against them, actually, with a 3.5 ERA, 2.41 batting average against, a 1.16 whip. That's 18 DK points per game. He has allowed just 3 home runs in 20 2/3 innings. He's been the hard luck loser in 2 of those games, but otherwise been reasonably solid. And at 6,000, hey, we'll have to see what happens because Robbie Cano sounds like he is going to go on the injured list. I think he hurt his hamstring again on Sunday. He was pulled early from that game, so you will want to double check that, but that could water down the first lineup somewhat. All right, now on to what we are calling the main slate here. We do not yet know who the pitcher is going to be for the Yankees. I've looked at multiple sites, and the best I could come up with was, let me get back to it, Masahiro Tanaka. Now, this is interesting because DK is listing him, FanDuel is listing him, MLB.com is listing TBD, and then a couple other sites that I look at also had blanks. So let's just assume it's going to be Tanaka, just so we have something to talk about here. Now, with Tanaka, of course, he has a pretty good ground ball rate against lefties. It's 50%. Against righties, it's 44%. Fly ball rate, 28% to lefties, 37% to righties, which, of course, makes some sense because we know that righties do have a little bit of pop against him, and he is prone to giving up home runs from time to time. 21 thus far on the season in his 124 and a third innings pitched, but he is someone that has been solid. Over the last 2 seasons, he has a 24.5% strikeout rate against righties, 21% against lefties, reasonable walk rate, and reasonable power. Righties get him to 195, lefties at 174. Again, we have mentioned, it's righties that get to him just a little bit more than lefties, but he's going against Baltimore. So that's going to be a good matchup for him. On the other side here, we've got Gabriel Ynoa. Now, I'm not able to know just yet who is coming in long relief, but it really doesn't matter. Ynoa is going to go probably about 30 pitches in his starting gigs. He has gone 2 innings, essentially, no more than 2. Sometimes it's 1 and change, but already the Yankees have a 6 implied run total. So Edwin Encarnacion, for those of you that are not aware, fractured his right wrist, so he is going to be out for a little while. Now, it sounds like he may be back for the playoffs. It's a 6 to 8 week injury, so I think this might have been more like a hairline fracture, but that's always tough if you are a hitcher. Aaron Hicks is on the injured list as well. He hurt his right elbow on Saturday night, making a throw from the outfield to third base. Gary Sanchez, eligible to come off the injured list with his groin injury, but he could be another 5 to 7 days away. And then Luke Voigt dealing with the sports hernia, so he's going to be out of action. Then of course Giancarlo Stanton is not even in the mix at all. Now what that does is that puts some good upgrades here for a lot of the Yankees hitters. Now they're going to be relatively secure in what they're doing with as far as their at-bats for whomever is starting, and then it's giving a lineup upgrade to quite a few people. So we know that LeMahieu and Judge should be leading off, and then we're going to see Gleyber Torres, Giovanni Urshela, and Didi Gregorius in prominent spots in the batting order. And then it's going to secure some playing time for Brett Gardner, Mike Tauchman. I think that Cameron Maybin's back in the mix now, as is probably Austin Romine will be behind the plate, is my guess, on Monday. So they're going to be an intriguing option going against the Baltimore Orioles, who, right up there with the Mariners, have essentially allowed the most runs in the league. Moving along here to our next one, we've got Milwaukee going into Pittsburgh, taking on the Pirates. No great shakes here for the pitching. We have Jordan Lyles, the righty, going against Dario Agrizal, also a righty. Milwaukee's carrying a 5.1 implied run total going against Agrizal. Pittsburgh has a 4.5 implied run total going against Lyles. If you're going to do a little bit of game log watching with Lyles, it's not been pretty. So in his last start, he did go 5 innings, 94 pitches, allowed just 1 earned run against Oakland. Start before that, wait for it, this same Pittsburgh team that was just after the All-Star break, where he allowed -5 fantasy points, lasted 1 2/3, gave up 3 home runs and 5 earned runs, 8 total runs. The game prior to that was again in Pittsburgh, and he was solid there, 5 2/3 of an inning, 100 pitches, got 20 DK points, but then he got his ass kicked by Chicago, -13 fantasy points, 7 earned runs, 1 home run was all he allowed. It was horrible sequencing for him. He lasted 2/3 of an inning, 8 base runners, 4 on hits, 4 on walks, and 7 came around to score. So just putting that out there, he's been a little bit tough luck. This will be the 4th overall time that he's gone against the Pirates, and he is somebody that I really want no part of. Looking at some of his advanced numbers, if we look back to the beginning of last season, this is going against 400 and change righties and 300 and change lefties. He's got a 45% ground ball rate to lefties, 41%, pardon me, I've reversed that, 41% to lefties, 45 to righties, fly ball rate 42% to lefties, and the lefties are getting him with a 189 ISO, righties at a 202. That's just not appealing to me. If we look at his strikeout rates, it's been okay. 21% to lefties, 25% to righties since the beginning of last season. So he does get some strikeouts, but he is giving up the power, and I just don't really like that. 1.4 home runs per 9 since the beginning of last season. So makes me a little bit nervous. Agrizal, let's get over to him. This is where we have fun to see if my filters are working, and there he is. All right, so this is against his 155 total major league batters. He is allowing a 2 home runs per 9, which is not great. The strikeouts have not been there. He's got a 3.7 K per 9. Yikes. That's pretty bad. He is getting ground balls at a nice rate there to righties, at nearly 50%. Lefties, it's just 31%, but he is striking out lefties a little bit more than righties. Lefties, he's striking them out at 15%, 8% to righties. So a little bit of reverse splits there for him. He is 6,200. This will be the second time he has gone against Milwaukee. He last faced them at the beginning of July, and it was a marginal performance, so that's really not going to tell us one way or the other how this one's going to turn out. But at 6,200, he has gone 55, 78, 93, 87, 91, 99, 59 pitches in his starts thus far on the season. So at 6,200, maybe, but it's a tough matchup here going against the Brewers, so not overly excited by him, but he will be in the mix just based on his price. Moving along, we have Boston hosting Kansas City. We have Rick Porcello and Mike Montgomery squaring off. Montgomery enters the conversation because he is 4,400 on DraftKings. He is now exiting the conversation. 6.34 ERA on the season, 1.8 whip, 23 strikeouts in 38 innings. That is just not good. Now he does have some time coming out of the bullpen, but they're pushing him to be a starter. He will probably go 80 or so pitches. I don't see him going more than 85. In his last start, he went 78. Prior to that was 64. So he should be reasonably stretched out, but I really don't see him lasting more than 80 or so pitches. So on a pitch per dollar, maybe, but this is Boston. Come on, they're going to be just ready to rock. Let's go see what we have here for our implied run total for Boston. We have, oh my, 7.1 implied runs already. It's going to be 80 degrees in Boston, and there's a 7 to 9 mile an hour breeze going out to left field. So not good times there for Mr. Mike Montgomery. On the other side, we have Rick Porcello, 6,400. I am not a fan of Rick Porcello. However, 4.6 implied run total here for Kansas City. Kansas City missing a lot of their key players. No Adalberto Mondesi. They've got, Lucas Duda has been dinged up almost the entire season. Sal Perez has been out for the whole season. So really we're looking at Whit Merrifield, Alex Gordon, Hunter Dozier, Jorge Soler, and Cheslor Cuthbert as really the only, and I'm using air quotes, you can't see me, but I am using them, threats. Not really going to worry about Ryan O'Hearn, Bubba Starling, whoever is catching, and Nicky Lopez at this point. So Porcello, another guy who's going to be in the mix. You're hoping for a quality start. He has just been a mess this season. 5.7 earned run average, 99 strikeouts in 122 innings, 22 home runs in 122 innings. So that's kind of ticked up a little bit, 1.5 whip. So he is marginal at best, but this is a favorable matchup for him. Again, we're looking for some clean innings here. We don't have games in Coors. We don't have games in Texas, but the way the pricing is coming out on the sites, there are a couple pitchers that we probably do want to spend for. And there's really no cheap ones. So I'm going to call out some of these cheap guys because, or I should say lower mid-tier guys, because if we're talking Dario Aguzar, we've already written him off. We're going to write off Michael Wacha. Eric Fede, yeah, maybe only because he's in San Francisco. I don't want any Mike Montgomery. It's going to only go 2 innings. Taylor Cole's probably going to go 1 or 2 innings. He's looking like the listed opener there for the Angels. He should be good for about 30 pitches. His last start against Cleveland, his last opener against Cleveland, he made it a third of an inning on 24 pitches. The game before that, he got to face Detroit. He made it 2 innings on 35 pitches. So he'll probably go about 30 pitches. So yikes, not a lot to see there. We also got a couple young guys here that are going to be making their debut or close to it that we will talk about as well when we get there. Continuing along here. As we move through our games, let's see, where did I leave off there? We're going to go back here to The Angels, let's just start with them. So Taylor Cole going to be the opener. The probable long reliever, buying myself a moment here, is going to be, a guy I did not look up. So Patrick Sandoval. So Sandoval's coming up out of the minors. They had talked about him potentially starting, but they are going to put him behind an opener because that's kind of what the Mariners and the Angels do. They generally have three of their starters that they put in, openers in front of them. For the Mariners, it's a lot of their lefties. For the Angels, it's mostly their righties. So let's see. He was down in AAA Salt Lake. Not good this season. 6.4 ERA, a 2. Count that, a 2 whip, and then 2-1 strikeouts to walks through 60 innings. So we'll have to see what happens. He's 7,400. He is going to go against Cincinnati in Cincinnati, so he does not have to face the DH. They, of course, have moved Yasiel Puig out of town, so we are looking at another team that does not have the most imposing lineup once you get past Senzel, Bato, and Eugenio Suarez. Then we're down to cleanup hitter Phillip Ervin, and then in the mix, Aristides Aquino, who did get a home run. I called him the number 6 hitter on Saturday night, but he did get us a home run. Jose Iglesias, Jose Peraza, and then whoever is catching. So not the most imposing of lineups, but not a great track record here for the youngster. On the other side, you have Luis Castillo. So here's going to be one of the guys that we're going to consider. He is 10,100 on DraftKings, and I'll circle back. It's just hard doing it by myself to have all the prices open, but I'll circle back on give you the takes on Yahoo and FanDuel specifically as well, because there are a couple that I do want to point out. But in the meantime, for your foundational look here, Luis Castillo, going for the Reds since the beginning of last season, he has faced 636 lefties, 603 righties, so that's a lot of innings that he has logged. Righties, we know he's phenomenal. 55% ground ball rate, 26% strikeout rate. Let's see, 0.76 home runs per 9. Lefties can get him a little bit. That has improved dramatically this season. If we go, let me see if I can get this spreadsheet to work by years. Yes, I think I can. If we look at the 2018 season for Mr. Castillo, he allowed to lefties over 351 at bats, a 375 WOBA, and a 241 ISO. This year, it is, so remember that's 375, 241. This year, it is a 318 and a 170. So he has improved by, what is that, about 35%. That is a dramatic change. So he is definitely a complete pitcher. Now, the one downside is he's going against the Angels, who do not strike out a ton. However, we do want to remember that they're going to be having their pitcher as a hitter. So that is probably 2 strikeouts for him, since they don't; those guys do not have to hit very often, being in the American League or in the minors. All right, so let's put a pin in that one, but he's one of our top pitchers of the day. Continuing along here, I feel like I missed a game. 2, 4, 6. Texas at Cleveland. You have Mike Minor coming in at 9,900 on DraftKings. You have Aaron, I'm going to say it's Aaron Civale, just because that sounds more exciting. But he is at 6,900. Nice. Going against Texas. Now, he is righty, and we know Texas is better against righties because they can go pretty lefty heavy. 5 of their first 6 hitters should be Chu, Danny Santana, who's a switch hitter, Nomar Mazara, Willie Calhoun, and Rugned Odor. So that is not going to be the easiest for our buddy Aaron, who does not have a long track record in the majors. He has faced just 23 hitters, and he has gone a grand total of 6 innings. So not, again, too much of a track record. In his first start, didn't really give up any power at all. Had some nice strikeouts, but yeah, we can't really infer a lot from that. Minor going against Cleveland's going to be a little bit tougher because now Cleveland has Yasiel Puig. They have Franmil Reyes, so they've bumped Jason Kipnis all the way down to the bottom of the order. Carlos Santana, Francisco Lindor, those guys will be in the lineup because they are switch hitters. Jose Ramirez. And then we'll probably see Jordan Luplow, maybe batting cleanup or 5th, would be my guess there. So that's a tough run there for Minor. I'm not really excited about Cleveland, but they do have a 6.1 implied run total. So that sort of has me off of Minor. I'm curious to see what Adam and Laffy think about Mike Minor, and if this is a reasonable contrarian spot to go against Cleveland, just because a lot of people are probably going to be on them because of that high implied run total. So we'll have to see. But if we're just making one or two lineups, he is not going to be in the conversation there. And again, as I mentioned with Aaron C., your mileage may vary. I can say that. I can say that because I am on the podcast by myself. But 6,900 does come into play at that price point. Continuing along here, we do have another pitcher that we're going to like. This is the Blue Jays going into Tampa, taking on the Rays. You have Charlie Morton at 10,700. In his last, since the beginning of last season, he's faced 600 lefties and 640 righties. He has a 43% ground ball rate to the lefties, 53% to the righties. He is striking out lefties at 34%, which is awesome because Tampa Bay's probably, or pardon me, Toronto's probably going to put as many lefties out there as they can. They just don't have that many lefties. And then he's striking out righties at 25%. So this is pretty good. So for lefties, we've got Kevon Biggio, we've got switch hitting Justin Smoke, and then probably their catcher. What's his name? Reese McGuire is a lefty. I think it's his turn to catch. But that's really it. Otherwise, there's going to be a bunch of righties. But these are not the most scary hitters. We've talked about we've talked about Toronto a lot. They were in Baltimore this weekend. They've got a lot of young guys there. They've got the legacy guys like Bichette, Biggio, and Vlad Guerrero Jr., but they've also got some decent talent, but they've only got a year or two under their belt. And Lourdes Gurriel, Teoscar Hernandez, and whomever is catching for them on any given day. So we're going to see some boom or bust. I think we're going to see bust against Charlie Morton. So I like Charlie Morton. On the other side, we have Jacob Wagspack. He has 5 implied run total going against him from the Rays. Oh, I should mention 3.1 implied total there for Blue Jays going against Charlie Morton. So no great shakes there, but he's probably the top pitcher of the day. Our next guy could be in the mix as well, depending on how you feel about the Detroit Tigers offense. And I don't feel good about them. But Jacob Wagspack, I don't know. He's got 120 hitters or 130 hitters that he has faced thus far. He has gone 30 innings in the show. He's got about a 5 xFIP, which isn't very exciting. He's given up 4 home runs in his 30 innings. They've all come to righties. He is a righty himself. Crappy ground ball rates against righties, 38%. Better against lefties, 47%. Strikeout rate, not great. At all. So I'm really not interested in a Wagspack other than tournament SP2 types to not land all on one player. All right, the next ace on our slate is Lucas Giolito, 11,000. Now Giolito has been a bit of a mixed bag this season. We know he changed his arm slot and his throwing style, and he went on one heck of a run. Then he kind of fell apart for a couple games. He's coming off a great start against the Mets. He went 7 innings, allowing 1 earned run, 3 hits, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts. He went 97 pitches. Game before that was against Minnesota. It wasn't great. 7 runs, 4 of them were earned. He had 2 walks, 7 hits. So 9 base runners, but 7 of them scored. That's a tough one. He had 102 overall pitches in that, but he made it just 5 innings. Game before that was in Tampa Bay. Solid start, 6 2/3. Allowed just 1 earned run. It was on a solo shot. He had 9 strikeouts against Minnesota. Even though it wasn't a great game, he still had 7 strikeouts. And then against Kansas City, they kind of got to him. He had a middling outing, and then Chicago, the Cubs crushed him. What are we going to do? He's 11,000. Well, he is facing the Detroit Tigers. Excuse me. That's about all we really need to say. Tigers are going to carry a 3.5, and I made up this run line because it wasn't available yet because they haven't announced who is starting for the Tigers, but I'm guessing the Tigers are going to have about a 3.5 implied run total going against Giolito. On the other side, I've seen a couple sites talking about Spencer Turnbull, who's coming off the injured list, dealing with the sore back. He last appeared in the majors on July 17th, so he has been out for about 3 weeks. He has made, let's see, says he's made a rehab start, 2 rehab starts at AAA Louisville, and it was more just to make sure there were no problems. I'm not going to read anything into that, but he's 7,000 on DK. That's about all I can say. We should have more information tomorrow based upon how many innings we think he will go, or if in fact he is starting. So let's wait for that. But you can get all of that on the DFS strategy show. That will be 9:30. That will be Adam and Jake Hari. All right, I think that's going to close out the 7 o'clock games for us. Oh, one more. The doubleheader. So this will be interesting. So you got the Marlins and the Mets going, and Robert Duger is listed as the starter. This will be his debut. He was part of the D. Gordon trade to the Mariners, so he spent the first couple seasons of his career in the Mariners in low A ball, rookie ball. And never really got anywhere. Once he got to Miami, they put him at high A and then double A, and then he's pitched at AAA New Orleans, Baby Cakes or the King Babies, I forget who, Baby Cakes I think, but he has a decent strikeout rate, so it's about 8.5 per 9, so he's someone to think about. Now, he is not on FanDuel, he is not on DraftKings, but he is on Yahoo, and on Yahoo I believe he is... let me see. Sorry, I had that filtered, but now I got the other rookie up there. Get over there to Duggar. He is 26. So I think you can definitely give him some consideration at 26. We've got one other cheapie that we're going to talk about in a minute that's over there that I think is even a better option on Yahoo. All right, so that game is not on DK, the Marlins and Mets second game. It is on FanDuel, and it is on Yahoo in their main slates. And I think that's why DraftKings did the happy hour, where they just took the first game and all the other 7-10 games. So not much to say. Walter Lockett's going on the other side. We don't know who's going to be in the lineup. Neil Walker's dinged up. Cano, as we mentioned, is dinged up, probably going to go on the injured list. Pete Alonso got Sunday off, but he should be in the lineup. Will he play both games? I don't know, because this is a 4-10 game and a 7:40 game. We'll have to see who's in the lineup, but that's what we have the live before lock show for, as well as the deeper dive with Adam, Laffy, and Alex. You doing better as Awesemo. On to our 8 o'clock games here. Oakland at Chicago. We've got the Cubbies hosting Chris Bassett. Of course, there is no run total on this because it is the night before. There is an 8 to 10 mile an hour breeze going out to right center field, and then you have 85 to 87 degrees with 50 to 55% humidity. So not the best pitching environment. Chris Bassett is actually he is a solid pitcher, so I'm not going to be very excited about going to the Cubbies. In this one, Bassett has faced, since the beginning of last season, 330 lefties, 300 righties. He has against righties, he's been really good, nearly a 50% ground ball rate and just a 0.9 home runs per 9. Against lefties, 1.25 home runs per 9, but he is striking out lefties at 24%. So he's a good pitcher. He's a good real-life pitcher. I don't think he's there for us from a fantasy perspective, but if you are playing the 8 o'clock only slate, he is going to be in the mix because all 4 guys in this 8 o'clock slate are solid. I don't really want any of them on the main slates. Or they would not be my preference, I should say. On the other side, we have Kyle Hendricks. He's coming in at 9,300 on DraftKings. He also is a very solid pitcher, much better in real life. The nice thing about that, him is he is going to face the pitcher instead of the DH. That means that Chris Davis is not going to be in the lineup because he generally does not play outside of pinch hitting when they are in National League parks. On the season, through 20 starts, Kyle Hendricks is an 8-8 record. He's allowed 13 home runs in 20 innings. But here's some fun numbers. These are Cy Young numbers. These are back to the baseball card numbers. A 3.07 ERA. Think about that for a second. 3.07, pretty good. 1.1 WHIP and a 107 strikeouts in 120 innings. Does not move the needle for us in DFS, especially at 9,300, but not really somebody I want to target against in most situations from that standpoint. So let's continue along here. We've got 4 more games. We've got Atlanta and Minnesota. In Minnesota, this is the second of the 2 8 o'clock games. Mike Soroka, who's been really good from a ground ball perspective, going against Jake Odorizzi, who was pushed back from Sunday's start. I do not really want to take Soroka against the Twins. They have a 5 implied run total. Again, mixing and matching on this 2-game 8 o'clock slate, but for me, not so much on the main slate. It's going to be a tough row to hoe. He's going to have to take on Kepler, Cruz, Rosario, Sano, Jason Castro, etc., etc. Now, the good thing about Soroka from a pitching perspective is that he has a high ground ball rate. And against his last 243 lefties, he has a 50% ground ball rate. Against his last 334 righties, that is 56%. He is striking out 18% of lefties, 22% of righties, and he does not give up power. Wait for it. 0.03 home runs per 9 against righties, 0.6 against lefties. And that, dear listener, is across 575 at-bats. He has allowed just 7 home runs. So really don't want to take him. Not really fired up to take the Twins. However, I am interested in Atlanta going against Jake Odorizzi. Now, Jake Odorizzi used to be a reverse splits pitcher. He has changed his pitch mix, changed what he is doing with his changeup. Adam has talked about it many times. He is a much better, gives a much better analytical review of the pitchers than I do. But here are, kind of the surface numbers of somebody who's been doing fantasy sports for 30 seasons. That's right, 3-0. So my take is Jake Odorizzi has solid baseball card numbers. That's twice I've used that in this show. I think I was inspired by the Shane Bieber, Justin Bieber gaffe there by Topps. If you haven't seen that, you can see it on ESPN or on Twitter. It's pretty funny. So he has a 3.7 ERA, a 1.2 WHIP, 113 strikeouts, only 14 home runs allowed, which is really good in 108 innings. However, his 2-year advanced metrics paint a less rosy portrait. 5.2 xFIP, 9.2 walk rate. Lefties are now the bane of his existence. They have a 200 ISO, a 50% fly ball rate, and a 40% hard hit rate. Now, even though he's given up since the beginning of last year 34 total home runs, and they've been split evenly 17 and 17 between righties and lefties, I'm looking at him going with the lefties. In that same time frame against the righties, it is now a 294 ISO and a 294 WOBA and a 144 ISO. Now that is pretty much flipped. So Freddie Freeman got Sunday off, so he should be in the lineup. Ozzie Albies, Ender Inciarte, Brian McCann should be in the lineup, and Johan Camargo. Now Camargo having a horrible season, but with Dansby Swanson out, he's been getting a lot more at bats. He will be at the bottom of the order, but if I remember correctly, I think he's like 2,900 on DraftKings. Purely a punt play because we're going to need him to get some of these pitchers into our mix here. But I do like he's a switch hitter, so I'm okay with him going against Odorizzi. I'm not excited to take Odorizzi myself. That 5.3 implied run total and not a lot of strikeout upside. So I'm going to stay away from that one. We do have a lot of choices with 24 going and a couple intriguing ones coming up here. You have Vince Velasquez in Arizona. The roof will be closed. It's going to be 112 in Arizona. The roof will be closed for the rest of this homestand. You have basically a pick'em. Each team has a 5.1 implied run total. Merrill Kelly on the other side. Merrill Kelly, tiny bit interest in him because he's 6,600 on DraftKings, and we are going to need a second pitcher. But he has been very up and down. We'll get to him in a second. Vince Velasquez, you may have seen him this weekend. I think it was Thursday night or Friday night. He was playing the outfield, and he had one outfield assist as an outfielder. First time that has happened since 1980, which is kind of crazy that a regular starting pitcher had that an assist. He almost had a second one. Of course, that was the game where what's his name? Quinn came in and I think it's Quinn came in and pitched. The outfielder came in. I don't know. It was a weird game. Who knows what they're doing in Philly? Neither here nor there. But 7,800. He does have some strikeout upside. He is stretched out. Arizona put a whooping on the Nationals this weekend, but I'm still okay with Vince Velasquez, even at 7,800. Merrill Kelly, 6,600. Tougher story to sell me on. The price, yes, is nice, but let's talk about him a little bit more in depth. If you remember, he is a 30-year-old rookie. He was drafted not once, not twice, but 3 times. Went back to college twice after his first 2 drafts and said, yeah, I don't want to go there. He was ultimately picked, each time he moved up a few rounds. I think he was picked in, I don't know, like the 10th round or the 14th round by Tampa Bay. I forget what it is. But he spent 5 years in their minor system, never made it above AAA Durham. He then spent the last 5 years in the Korean League, and here we are. So the main issue he has has been allowing power. He's given up 7 earned runs in each of his last 2 starts. So that's 14 total runs. He's gone 8 2/3 innings. Wait till you hear the opponents. Baltimore and at Miami. Yikes. He has allowed 21 home runs in his 125 innings. He's got a 4.5 ERA, a 1.3 whip, 100 strikeouts. So he's been solid for a guy who's 30 years old and just now making his major league debut. But that's not DFS solid. So I'm actually recommending going against him with the Phillies. It's actually the right-handed hitters that have had the most success against him. They have a 208 ISO in their 285 matchups. Lefties have 164 ISO over their 240 matchups. So we want to look to Rhys Hoskins, JT Realmuto. Those would be our top 2 choices. Corey Dickerson, if they're actually going to play him. They traded for him and then didn't play him against the first 2 righties they faced. Who knows what's going on in Philadelphia. Bryce Harper, take anybody deep. He can also strike out against anybody. But then the other guys, even though he's going to be at the bottom of the lineup, Scotty Kingery is intriguing with his righty power. And then Cesar Hernandez if you want to go with the full stack or get a little bit of differentiation in there. So that's my thoughts on the Phillies. 2 games to go. Let's see. We've got 3-game late slate, it looks like. You got this 9:40 game, 9:45. We have Washington in San Francisco. It's Erick Fedde. God, even in San Francisco, I really don't want to take him, but he is 5,600. We don't have a line on this game yet. Let me refresh and see if one has come in. We still do not have a line yet on this game. I'm going to guess it's going to be about a 9 over under because Jeff Samardzija is on the other side. We're going to say, let's call it 4.5 going each way. A pick 'em, if you will. Erick Fedde is, well, if we want to exploit going against him, since the beginning of last year, he's faced 207 lefties, 241 righties, 53% combined ground ball rate, basically evenly split. He is striking out about 17%, relatively evenly split. He is walking 10% to each side of the plate, and that's not what we like to see. And when it is a fly ball, it's a problem. He's got a 19% fly ball rate there to lefties, 19.6 to righties. So 16 home runs allowed in his 104 innings. Not good. 10 going to righties, 6 to lefties. Now, it's all about the opponent. So Brandon Belt and Yastrzemski are kind of interesting. Stephen Vogt, sure. Scooter Gennett and Brandon Crawford basically seeming like they have broken prices on DraftKings at $2,700 and $2,600. It looks like they gave the double discount from everybody coming out of Coors Field this weekend because Belt is 31, Yastrzemski's 38, Sandoval 36, Vogt 36, Kevin Pillar 31. So here's some of your cheapies, and I don't mind them going against Fedde. On the other side, Jeff Samardzija is 8,700. He generally has a pretty even split in his 4 seasons, or I guess it's 3 seasons and change. This is his 4th season with the Giants. He gives up about 30% more of his production on the road than he does at home. He gives up and that's from a power perspective. So almost 2/3 of his home runs and power numbers come away from San Francisco. Walks are about the same. Strikeouts are about the same. Everything else is about the same, but it doesn't give up the power. You've got to worry about Soto, Matt Adams, Anthony Rendon. That's really about it. But Samardzija's 8,700. I wish he was 6,700. I wish he was 7,500. 8,700. We'll have to see what lineup construction gets us, but sort of a middling option. Like him on the late slate, though. Last game of the night, we got one guy we're going to attack, and we got one guy that we're going to like. So Michael Wacha coming back out of the bullpen for another round in the starting rotation. This is the second time he's made that move. Between the two, he's going against the Dodgers. That's going to be a problem for him because Wacha against lefties, not good. He's not good against righties either, but let's just say that we want to take lefties lefties against him. If we're looking at the power numbers, righties have gotten him a little bit better lately, but I really don't care because the lefties on the Dodgers are phenomenal. Peterson, Muncy, Bellinger, Verdugo, let's throw in Corey Seager. Those guys are all good. Justin Turner in righty. Check out and see what's up with AJ Pollock. He wasn't in the game on Sunday. And then Will Smith. You have to see if he's in there. But I don't want any part of Michael Wacha. Curious to see what Adam says about that because at 6,000, I could see him maybe talking himself into it, but I don't think he's going to get there. It's going to be 80 degrees in LA, and it's a reminder 7 o'clock local start, so it's not not going to be cool there. What is going to be cool, Tony Gonsolin is, and if you want to look at him, if you want to look at his picture, he looks like he should be related to, if you've ever seen Dazed and Confused, this looks like Wooderson's cousin that came up from the Oklahoma Panhandle to hang out with him. Yeah, he is sketchy at best. So he is going to be starting because Hyun-Jin Ryu is dinged up. He's coming up from AAA, Oklahoma City, and this will be his second, I believe this is his second appearance in the majors. His minor league numbers. Now he's mostly been in A and low A, but he did get up to AAA Oklahoma City this year. He has, let me get to the innings, 40. Oops, that's strikeouts. Where is innings? He's gone 36 innings with 41 strikeouts. That's 10.2 per 9. In his minor league, all levels, he has 10.4 strikeouts per 9. Pretty good. Now again, a lot of this is in rookie ball A and high A, but still we like the strikeouts. We like him at 25 on Yahoo. We like him at 7,000 on DK. I don't think he is available on FanDuel. Let me double check. Oh, he is. He's 6,200 on FanDuel. I'm okay with that on FanDuel. We'll talk about FanDuel pricing in just a moment here, but he's going to be going against the Red Sox. Red Sox have been a little bit sketchy. Probably the Redbirds. The Cardinals, last game of the night, and I'm ready for bed. Cardinals have been a little bit sketchy lately. They do have Marcell Ozuna back, which should be helpful to them, but they are no great shakes at this point. They're trying to get it done with veterans, and they do have a heavy righty lineup. So that should play into Gonsolin's strength. All right, so let's talk a few price-specific things here on Yahoo. We did talk a little bit about the cheapy guys. Eric Fetty's the minimum there, 25. He is in play there. I'd rather go with Gonsolin at 25. I'm seeing conflicting stuff now. If it's going to be Turnbull or Drew Verhagen starting for Detroit, he's 25 against the White Sox. I don't really hate that. I don't want Gabriel Inoa. I do not want Mike Montgomery. They're both at 25. Michael Wacha at 27, maybe. Walker Lockett against the Marlins, depending on what lineup they run out in the second game of the doubleheader at 28 on Yahoo, maybe. So, but where's the exciting stuff? Charlie Morton at 51. Oh yeah, that's a good price. Castillo and Giolito at 48 apiece. I like those. So there's definitely some stuff you can look for there. And then Tanaka at 39 becomes a little bit intriguing, as well as Soroka only on Yahoo because we got to play two of them, but he is 36. So that's kind of a middle of the road price. So that would be the guys I would look to on Yahoo. On FanDuel, let's get over to their starting pitchers. Make sure we got everybody checked, which I don't. So let's look. For me, looking at them, they still have Barrios. I'm seeing on three sites now that it's Odorizzi. If it's Barrios, I'm not excited about Atlanta. the bats, but I'm really not going to take Barrios either. He'll be the most expensive pitcher out there. I think Luis Castillo, interesting at 10,500. I'd rather go to Charlie Morton at 10,100. I think that's where a lot of gamers are going to go. And Lucas Giolito is at 9,800. Those three guys are separated by $500. That's basically marginal, and you want to play the ownership game on that one. You want to play the popularity. Go with whoever is less popular. If we scroll down, I think you could consider Vince Velasquez at 7,500, and then Tony Gonsolin at 6,200 would be the guys I would look to there. And then DK, they've been our benchmark for this whole show. But if you're spending, it's going to be Giolito, Morton, and Castillo. A little more of a spread there. Giolito 11, Morton 10-7, and Castillo 10-1. I don't want Minor at 99. I don't want Hendricks at 93. I don't want Soroka here at 91. Tanaka maybe at 89 just because it's going against Baltimore. Maybe Jeff Samardzija, depending on how many cheap guys we get. And by the way, if you look to those Giants, they are super cheap on DK. Velasquez at 78 is reasonable, and then Tony Gonsolin at 7 would be the guys we'll look to. But there we go. Thank you for letting me go solo here. Hopefully we don't have to do too many more of these, but no stranger for me. It's probably my 8th one I've done this season. Prefer doing baseball solo than basketball. Basketball's more fun to bounce the ideas off of different or off of your co-host. Baseball, we're just looking at the numbers, so we can do that with just one person. All right, so with that, I'm going to get on out of here. You can follow me at EMAC DFS. Again, if you want to sign up for Yahoo and get that initial deposit bonus, go to the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article that's out there every day. Third paragraph, we'll have the instructions and the link on how to sign up for Yahoo and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points off of your initial deposit. They will match it. You can follow me at EMAC DFS. It is Osmo_COM on Twitter. And with that, gamers, good luck.